Ever since Halo Infinite came out on November 15th, the only thing that's been talked about is the controller versus mouse and keyboard and the almighty, never to be ended aim assist debate. In this video, we're going to dive into the question so many people are asking: will mouse and keyboard players be able to compete in Halo Infinite, or will the top ranks simply be dominated by controller players? If you guys enjoy the video, a like on it is appreciated, and if you want to see more Halo Infinite content, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. So Halo Infinite is the first ever Halo game built from the ground up on PC, allowing you to play on mouse and keyboard or a controller. What has everyone up in arms is that HCS, which is Halo's Pro League, the Halo Championship Series, allows cross input, meaning that players can use any input they want, controller or mouse and keyboard, in professional events. To my knowledge, this is the only FPS game that's ever allowed cross input inside the professional scene. Many players thought that Halo would follow the same route that Call of Duty took, where players in the professional scene are only allowed to play on controller and no mouse and keyboard is allowed in professional events. The aim assist debate has always been a never-ending debate, but currently it seems to be all people talk about during anything HCS related. Currently, the majority of pros on Halo Infinite are playing on controller only because that's the only way that they've played Halo for the past 10 plus years. And for some reason, a lot of people seem to forget that. Now, I'll go ahead and say it straight up. Yes, the aim assist you get on controller is definitely very helpful when it comes to getting kills due to how high the time to kill is on Halo. But just because mouse and keyboard doesn't have aim assist doesn't mean that mouse and keyboard players won't be able to compete. What makes the game so difficult to play on mouse and keyboard is the high time to kill. You have to be able to hold your aim on the enemy for many seconds to be able to get a kill, which means your tracking skills on mouse have to be impeccable. With that being said, tracking is easily the hardest aiming mechanic when it comes to mouse aiming. But with enough practice, you can definitely master it and be able to play Halo at a high level on mouse and keyboard still. Side note, I gotta give myself a little self-plug on an amazing Halo Infinite mouse and keyboard aim guide that I made a month or so back. So check it out in the description if you're looking at how to aim better on mouse and keyboard. So let's talk about the pros and cons on both controller and mouse and keyboard, and why this is something I think needs to be brought up in every controller versus mouse and keyboard debate. Because I'll be the first to say there's definitely a lot of pros on controller that you don't have on mouse, and there's definitely a lot of pros on mouse that you don't have on controller, and those need to be discussed when you talk about aim assist. So let's start off with the pros for controller. The first pro is obviously the aim assist, but I do want to mention that many pros have came out and stated that the aim assist in Halo Infinite is the lowest that it's been in any other Halo game in the franchise. Now, aim assist is definitely still a huge advantage for controller players because it really helps you out, but I just wanted to throw that out there to let it be known by the masses. Another pro for controller, in my opinion at least, is that it is far better at close range fights than it is at long range fights. Up close, it's really easy to be able to hit the majority of your shots on the enemy versus when they are at long range. Now, if I'm honest with you guys, that's probably the only pros that controller players really have. I can't really think of anything else that would really be a big advantage on controller outside of the aim assist and short range fights. So let's talk about cons on controller. Easily the biggest disadvantage is the movement speed. And my God, after playing mouse and keyboard on every single game for the last 3 years since I moved to PC, it's very hard to play this game on controller due to how hard it is for me to look side to side or try to turn around quickly on an enemy. It is so painfully slow to try and whip around to an enemy behind me that I literally feel physical pain from it every time I try to do it. Aside from that, another disadvantage that I'm going to mention is equipment precision, mainly with the grapple shot and grenades, but the grapple shot far more than anything. The grapple shot is such an amazing piece of equipment in Halo Infinite. You can grapple weapons and power-ups to you, you can grapple the flag and capture the flag to you, and you can make crazy rotates and plays just by grappling onto walls and buildings. For me at least, it's honestly really difficult to accurately use the grapple shot to make these crazy plays whenever I'm in a tense situation, because when you're on controller, you just don't have that pinpoint accuracy that you get on a mouse and keyboard. So with those being mentioned, let's move on to the pros and cons of mouse and keyboard. Starting off with the pros, the biggest pro on mouse and keyboard is that it allows you to have complete control of your aim, which helps you be very precise from a far distance. I find myself being much more accurate with precision weapons in the game like the commando or the sniper for medium to long ranges than I am when I'm using a controller. The precise control of your aim also makes it very easy for using equipment items like the grapple shot to grapple certain weapons and objectives to you, and helps improve your grenade accuracy a little bit when you're throwing grenades. Another advantage for playing on mouse and keyboard that I like to call is variable sensitivity. Basically what I mean by variable sensitivity is when you're playing on a mouse, even if you're on a very low sensitivity, if you want to turn around quickly, all you have to do is simply whip your mouse really hard in one direction, assuming that you have the mouse pad space for that, and you can turn around far, far quicker than you'll ever be able to do on controller. This gives you kind of the feel like you have a variable sensitivity. You can turn slow when you need to turn slow, and when you need to turn fast, you can turn fast if you're in a pinch. Another advantage for playing on mouse is the ability to flick, which is very quickly snapping your aim to an enemy. The reason I mention flicking is because in SWAT and snipers, whenever they're finally added into the game, are solely about flicking to the head. So mouse and keyboard players will have a huge advantage in these game modes over controller players. When these modes do finally come out, I'm sure there will be different cues for mouse and keyboard players and controller players, much like there is in the current solo duo arena playlist, because I definitely think it'll be needed. Now moving on to the cons for mouse and keyboard, the biggest disadvantage and the one that will probably turn away a lot of people from it is that it's very hard to master and be able to get good with. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, tracking is definitely the hardest mechanic when it comes to mouse aiming, and it's very hard to master. You won't have any aim assist on mouse and keyboard like you will on controller. So while you might have precise aiming for long distances, a lot of times it can be really tough to hold your aim on a strafing enemy up close. If I'm honest with you guys, I really don't think there's many other disadvantages on mouse and keyboard besides this one. This is a really big disadvantage, but I promise if you put in the time and work and patience, then you can definitely master aiming on Halo Infinite on mouse and keyboard. So let's wrap things up here and talk about some of the key takeaways from this video. I think this is the best way to sum it up. Controller is definitely easier to play on, I won't lie about that. But mouse and keyboard has a far higher skill ceiling than controller does. If you're willing to put in the time and the work that it takes to get better on mouse and keyboard, then I truly think you'll be able to dominate the ranks on every playlist that Halo has to offer. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in seeing more Halo content from me, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and drop a like on the video if it helped you out in any way. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Peace.